YouTube channel. In today's class you'll be learning how to make this beautiful kimono dress. Okay, it's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. This is something you like to learn, kindly stay till to the end of this class. And this is to remind us that our upgrade class, for those asking for our upgrade class, the class is available now. So if you're interested in the class, just check the description box for details about the class. Thank you. This is the design we're going for, and it's actually a kimono dress, which means the sleeve is cut together with the bodice. So I'm using this Ankara fabric as my main bodice, and then I'm using this plain satin fabrics for my sleeve taping here, the design on the neckline, and also the design on the chest area. So to do this now, I've folded my Ankara fabric into 4, and the measurement I used in folding this is my shoulder measurement plus my sleeve length. That's how long I want my sleeve to be. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 8 inches, which is here, and the sleeve I'm working with is around 10 inches, so I have 18 inches here. So I'm using a total of 2 yards for this. So the 18 inches now, I folded it into 4 for my front and back. I'm cutting my front and back together. So the next thing now is for me to start taking my measurement, and the length they're going to use to fold this is the actual length that you want your dress to be. In my case, it's a short dress, so I want it to be around 40 inches. So I have 42 inches folded here, including my seam allowance. So now the first thing I'm going to do now is to mark out my neckline. Okay, so the neck width I'm working with is 3 inches, and then for the back I'm working with a neck width of 1.5 inches. So before I measure that now, I want to cut off my selvage, so I'm just going to take my ruler and then rule that out, so that I'm not going to add it to my fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to measure 1.5 inches for my back neck depth, and then I'm going to connect this like this. Okay, so after that, on the edge here, I'm going to measure 2 inches for my shoulder slope, and then from there I'm going to connect it to my neck point to form my shoulder slope. So I'm connecting from that place to my 2 inches shoulder slope. Then after that, I'm going to measure my neck, my bust point. That's going to double as my sleeve opening. So here now I'm going to measure my bust point, and then from there my bust point is around 11 inches. So I'm measuring 11 inches here, and then I'm going to make it to a straight line. Okay, so at this point here, I'm going to take my bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 44 inches. Divided by 4 is going to give me 11. So I'm going to mark 11 inches there, and then I'll add 1 inch for my seam allowance. Okay, so now here I'm going to take my waist measurement. That's if you want it to be shaped, or if you don't want it shaped, you can just take your bust measurement down and then take your hip. So I want it a little bit shaped from the upper part here. The waist I'm working with, the half length I'm working with is 18 inches, so I'm going to mark it there. And then the hip that I'm working with is 26 inches. I'm going to mark it there also. Then I'll make all of that to a straight line. So the waist I'm working with is 36 inches. 36 divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So I'm going to mark 9 inches here, and then I can add half an inch to it for ease, and then 1 inch for my seam allowance. And then the hip I'm working with is 46 inches. So 46 divided by 4 is going to give me 11.5. And then I'm going to add maybe half an inch for ease also, and then 1 inch for my seam allowance. So this hip measurement is what I'm going to take down. So everything here is around 13.5. So on my hem I'm going to measure 13.5, and then I'm going to measure it down like this, and then I'm going to connect from my bust to my waist, and then from my waist to my hip. Okay, so if the hip is too deep like what I have here, I'm going to increase. If this shape is too sharp for you, you can just increase your waist a bit so that it's not going to be too obvious. Okay, so you can see how I'm blending this. So I'm okay with what I have here now. So now to blend this with my arm hole, because I don't want this sharp edge that I have here. So here I'm just going to measure 1 inch downwards, and then from there I'm just going to connect it to my bodice like this. So now I'm going to cut out the shape that I have here. Okay, so I've cut this out now. This is my neckline, this is my sleeve opening. Okay, but you need to check, but for me this sleeve opening is fine for me. Okay, so I have around 9 inches there, so you can take your round sleeve measurement to be sure that you have enough. So now I'm going to open this up now, remove the back, and then work on my neckline. Remember, we have that V shape at our front neckline. So to get that shape, I'm going to measure on my bust point area here, where I have my bust point. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches, okay, inwards. On my bust point here, I'll measure 1.5 inches inwards, and then from there I'm going to connect it to my neck point, which is here. So from there now I'm connecting this to my neck point, and then I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so when I cut it out, this is what I have. Okay, you can see this is what you should have. So now the next thing now is for me to take my front and back together, and then I'm going to pin my, like I've sewn it, I'm going to pin my shoulder together so that I can measure what I have on my neckline, on my front and back neckline, to cut my collar. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it. You can just pin it down, and then I'm going to take the measurement of my round neckline. So now, starting from this corner, I'm going to measure it round. I will measure what I have round. So from here now, I'm measuring this now, then I'll go through my back neckline. So you should take this measurement carefully, and then back to this side. Then I'm going to, remember I started from here, so I'm going to take it all to this place now, and then I have 32 inches and quarter. So now I'm just going to add allowance to it, so I can just cut out 33 inches. So now I want the collar to be 2 inches wide. Okay, so I'm going to cut out a long strip of fabric. It's going to be 33 inches long, and the width is going to be 2 inches. Okay, so 2 inches on fold is going to give me, okay, I have 2 inches on fold now, so by the time I open it out, it's going to give me 4 inches, and then I'm going to add half an inch to it to sew. So that's going to give me a total of 5 inches opened like this, and then by the time I put it on fold, it's going to give me 2.5 inches. So now I'm going to cut that by 33 inches, and that's going to be my collar. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fold my fabric, and then I ironed it. So you can add interfacing to this if your fabric is not so strong, but this satin is fine for me. So the next thing now is to sew this round my neckline, and to sew it on this upper part here, I'm going to notch it so that at the corners that I have on the front area, I'm going to notch it so that I can open up for me. So now this corner now, I'm going to notch it by the same allowance that I'm going to use to sew, which is half an inch. I'm just going to notch it by half an inch a bit. You need to do this, because if you don't do this, it's not going to be easy for you to sew it. So now once you notch it, you can see that it has opened up for me, and I can sew this easily. So now I'm going to match this together now, and then I'm going to sew. So you can pin it, take it around your armhole, and then you sew it round. So I'm going to sew this round now, and then I'll bring it back to show us the next thing we need to do. Okay, so I've gone to sew it around. You can see the pink thread that I have there. Okay, so you should use a matching color. I used blue here, but I just want us to see what I'm doing. That's why I used pink on this upper part. So now the next thing you want to do, this is our front. You want them to lap on each other like this. This is what we want to achieve, for them to just lap on each other like this. And to achieve this, you're going to be flipping it over. So this is the right side now. You're going to flip it over to the wrong side. You can see that they are lapping on each other, and I'm just holding it with my finger, and then I'm going to flip it to the wrong side now. And then that's why I said the notching is important. You can see where we notched this here. I'm going to match them together now, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine to sew. So here now you can see where they lap. Let me bring it like this so that we'll see it well. So where they lap now, you place them on each other, and then we're going to sew it from here. So now I'll take it to the machine now and then sew it down there. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to sew it, and you can see how I just sew it here. So all of this now, you take it to your serger to weave it, or you just cover it up with your bias. So now when I turn it out, this is what my neckline is looking like now. You can see it's just lapping on each other a bit, and this is what the back is looking like. So you can see how neat it is. So the next one now is to do my taping for my sleeve. So on my sleeve now, I want the taping to be around 1.5 inches wide also. So here now, the leftover that I have from my neckline, I'm just going to slash it into two, and then I'm going to use it for the two sleeves. So for this now, you have to make sure you use a matching color of thread, because your thread is going to show. So I'm going to be using my royal blue thread on this also. So to tape it, I'm going to turn this to the wrong side now, and then I'm going to place this, the right side of my satin, I'm going to place it on the wrong side of my fabric, and then I'm going to sew it. Then after sewing it, I'm going to flip it over to the right side now, hem it inside now, and then sew on it for both of my sleeves. Okay, so now I've taped this. This is what the sleeve area is looking like, and you can see that it is neat on both sides. So now the next thing is for me to iron it down so that I can lay flat, and then I'm going to go ahead now and put the design on the chest area. So for the design, you need to measure how long you want this to be from where your collar stops. So for me, around 12 inches is fine. So I'll go ahead and cut a fabric of 12 inches by 12 inches. So after cutting my fabric, this is my fabric of 12 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to go ahead now and hem it by ironing it with 1/2 inch allowance. Okay, so you had this allowance, which means you're going to be cutting 13 inches by 13 inches. So now I'll fold in 1/2 inch on this side. I'll iron it down, fold in 1/2 inch here, iron it down, and then I'm going to fold in 1/2 inch on the hem and iron it down. I'm just going to leave the one I'm going to sew on this upper part. So now I'll go ahead now and iron this, and then we'll continue. So now I've ironed it down. I just used my hemming glue to iron it. I placed the hemming glue underneath it so that it can iron it flat for me. Then the next thing now is for me to form that angle design that I have on the hem. So now that design is on this side. I'm just going to fold it in here like this, and then I iron it down. So now you place it to see how you want this to form, the shape that you want it to form. Once you have what you want, I'm just going to take it now and iron this down. Okay, so I folded this inwards. So for the purpose of illustration, I'm just going to measure what I folded. So on the hem I have 3.5 inches, and then on the long part I have 5 inches. Okay, so this is what gave me this, and then I'm going to trim it down to 1/2 inch for my allowance. You can also go ahead and use your hemming gum to gum this down before you sew it to your fabric. So you just place your hemming gum in between them like this, and then you iron it down so that it can hold it down for you. So after ironing it down, I'm going to fold this into two now, and then notch the midpoint. So on this midpoint, I'm going to sew it. I'm going to place it just 1/2 inch above this now, and then I'm going to match it with the middle where I have my crossing there, and then I'll sew it down. So after sewing it down, I'm going to flip this over to this side now, and then I'm going to sew it like this. On that tiny part, I'm going to sew it round like this. Then we're going to close it up. So this is what the dress is looking like. You can see the collar, and this is the design that we did on the front. This is the taping on the side and the kimono dress, as you can see. So it's very simple and easy to make. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.